This next guest is of interest for obvious reasons. I mean, not that, but
Thank you.
when you have something like this, an animal that's already looking at you so intently, we're going to talk a little bit about canine training today. We're going to talk about a program that you're working with currently, Behesha Doan. See?
Touch.
I got it.
Touch.
It's a great name.
Behesha.
And your guest here, your friend here?
My friend is Yadier. He is a Belgian Malinois.
Yadier. Cardinals fan?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Cardinals fan.
Yes.
All right. From the time you walked in, you said you were going to use the touchpad
Correct.
for another reason, but you put it down. He immediately, hit this stance, and you have been his focus from the beginning. Is this how he lives his life?
Yes, it is. He's very focused. He's still a silly, fun-loving dog that runs the hills and has a great time, but when it's time to work, he's extremely focused. So if I'm talking, he's going to be listening.
Yeah. When you walked in, normally when you hear canine training dog or canine unit, you might expect a German Shepherd or something to come in. Now, this breed is...
This is a Belgian Malinois.
Okay, Belgian Malinois. And you chose this breed because it succeeded some of the others, or it's...
Yes, the Malinois is actually a longer-lived dog, a healthier dog.
Okay.
And they're extremely drivey, so that drive we can channel. He is a narcotics detection dog.
Okay.
He is also a patrol dog. So.
Okay.
And I use him a lot. He's a very balanced, steady dog, so we use him with dogs that have a little bit of insecurity or a little overexcitability, and he's real helpful in building balance in other dogs.
He's a leader.
He is very much a leader. We call him the Almighty.
The Almighty. How about that? Well, tell me a little bit about how this relationship forms and, the purpose of it as a whole. I know I was afraid to put a mic on you because I didn't know if he would try to protect you in some way.
He's very safe and social, but there are criteria in which he would deploy if necessary, but that
Deploy, is that a nice way of saying bite my arm off or
Yes.
Deploy, perfect, good.
Yes.
Let's don't say that word. That's a word that we don't commonly use, right?
Deploy?
No, the one that would make him deploy.
Oh, well, he's trained in French, so.
Oh, trained in French.
You're good to go. You're good to go.
See, I always wondered about that because here's the other thing. Not that I'm guilty, but I know that there are certain people who are guilty. At the airport, they're coming back from a foreign land and maybe they brought things back that they shouldn't. This is the last thing you want to see when you get off a plane and you're guilty of that.
That's correct.
Would there be any false deployment, or have you ever had to
He is
worry
very,
about that?
very solid.
Okay.
So he's trained in narcotics, but he is also trained in apprehension, and no, he is extremely solid.
Okay.
So, mon ami, up here. Okay. See.
He just needed to move.
Yeah, I just took him off there 'cause
Okay.
it gets a little fatiguing standing on there.
Yeah. My goodness, I'm tired just watching him. I mean, he's been so attentive. If you could get children to do this, you'd have something with you.
I had someone tell me, I'll give you $25,000 if you'll train my grandkids. And I damn near took it.
You thought about it, didn't you? You thought about it. These types of relationships are so important. It's been proven that animals have the ability to heal. Animals have the ability to help a person from depression or to stay out of depression. What are you doing for veterans now? That part of the program is very interesting.
Well, Extreme Canine not only trains, dogs for companions, people's own companion dogs, which we pride ourselves on working with the dog's behavior and helping them overcome behavioral problems. We also train for law enforcement and service work. But as far as training for veterans, Extreme Canine has a nonprofit outreach, and that is This Able Veteran.
This Able Veteran.
This
That is
Able Veteran.
Wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
This Able Veteran trains service dogs for veterans living with injuries, both physical injuries and psychological injuries.
Okay.
And so our program is multifaceted. We have a trauma resilience aspect, so it takes the dogs about a year to train. Then we bring the veterans in. The veterans are chosen from around the U.S., and they are matched with the service dogs, and they stay for 3 weeks and go through a trauma resilience program.
Wow.
And the work is amazing. The results are outstanding.
Did it even surpass your thoughts of what you thought it would be? Or?
We knew that it was, we knew we were getting excellent results, but Southern Illinois University's Department of Psychology launched a study on the program, and that study has yielded the results, and those will be published in the peer-reviewed journals in the fall.
Did you get a sneak peek?
We did, and they are off the charts as far as results, better than any program that we have seen. We have worked with the VA, we have worked with private clinicians, and we have never seen results because there are psychometrics that are used to measure depression scores,
Sure.
PTSD scores, quality of life scores, support. So those psychometrics are used before they come in,
Yeah.
the day they arrive, every day that they're here, a month out and 6 months out. So we see them at a really high level of anxiety, suicidal ideations, et cetera. They come in, those scores within 3 weeks drop to greater than what is seen in traditional therapy across years of training, and all of these veterans
That's
have had
remarkable.
years of therapy.
Yeah.
The time in our program, by the time they leave, their scores have dropped almost to normal levels, and they sustain across time.
Good for
So
you.
this is profound.
Good for you. Well, do you just want to demonstrate
Sure,
some of the
I'd be
things
glad
that
to.
you've done? Okay, well, I'm going to get out of the way, and is this the point you'll call on the little ones too?
In a
or
moment,
you'll
yeah.
Actually, can they be together?
They can, but there's no need yet.
Okay.
So what I'll do with him is I'll demonstrate a little bit of his focus work and that
Perfect.
type of thing, and then I'll demonstrate a little bit of tug work.
Okay.
Because these dogs love to tug. So
Okay.
if I've got a mic on, we're good to go.
Good, absolutely.
Okay,
And
so
then-
I'm just going to demonstrate with him a little bit of the focus. I'm also going to demonstrate how he can remain attentive even when he's highly aroused. And so that's one of the challenges with dogs is once they become extremely excited, they stop listening. So part of our training is we want to make sure that all the dogs that we train know how to be attentive, even under high distraction. We feel that if a dog cannot remain focused and attentive even under the closest and most intense distraction, that's not really training. So we want to make sure that we have training at every level. Mon ami, touch. Good. Nice. And what I want to do is make sure that he's watching me no matter where I go. I have food in my hands and he would love it, but I want him to not look at the food. I want him to look at me. So even if I have food in my hand and I wave it right in front of his face, or I move my hands all around with food, he's not looking at that. Yes. Okay? So we want that kind of focus, that kind of attention that isn't fixated on treats, right? So I'm going to actually ask him to read my lips. It was fun teaching him to do it, so his words are in French. So he was trained, assis is the French word for sit, debout is the French word for stand, and couché is the French word for down. So.
And you don't say the French word for deploy?
I will not.
Good, good, good. That is amazing. That was excellent.
So the tug is something a dog really can love. Some dogs love to play tug of war. One of the problems is getting them to let it go, right? They want to keep it. They lose their marbles. They don't want to give it up. But he has a real intensity with this. He loves it so much. But the problem is when you get them to that level of arousal, it's hard to get them to settle down. So what I want to show is that you can move that arousal level up and down with good training. If you really understand dogs, and we do, we are able to take a dog into a high level of arousal and then bring them right back down again. So he knows that he cannot have this until I release him, and then you're going to hear that French word. But when he takes it, you're going to see him release with a ton of intensity, and then I'm going to ask him to let it go and go do something counterintuitive, which is to leave the very thing that he loves and walk away from it in order to get it back. Imagine a dog chasing a squirrel and then letting the squirrel go. That's counterintuitive. Walking away from it, very counterintuitive. But we can build that in a dog. So I'm going to go ahead, let him take a bite of this. He's going to bite it with a lot of intensity. I'm going to ask him to let it go and to go back to his touchpad. So go ahead. Touch. Good. Touch. Nice. And we can do it fast or slow. Out. Out. Good. Nice. Assis. Assis. Good. Nice. Good. This is Lenny, and Lenny is an 8-week-old yellow lab, and he's come into our program at This Able Veteran. This Able Veteran is the nonprofit outreach of Extreme Canine, and we are training these dogs, and it will be about a year that they'll be in training with us. We'll be training them for veterans living with injuries, both physical and psychological injuries. And once they are grown and fully trained, and it will take all of a year to get them ready, they'll be matched with their veterans, and the veterans will spend 3 weeks with us going through a trauma resilience program, and they will go on to serve their veterans for the rest of their life.
What are some of the things that you will teach them?
These dogs will learn a number of things. They will learn not only the intense focus that you were able to see earlier, to really stay dialed into their veterans, but also to perform perhaps opening and closing of doors, retrieving objects, walking by a wheelchair or pulling a wheelchair, depending on what their veteran will need. Also, they'll be trained for nightmare interruption and anxiety alerts, panic attack alerts. Wow. So these alerts are something that This Able Veteran created. These were pioneered by This Able Veteran. So heretofore there have been no formally trained anxiety alerts, no formally trained nightmare interruption. But depending on the nightmare signature of the veteran, the way they nightmare, the way the dog is taught to wake them is very specific to them. Some people wake up biting, some people wake up crying, some people wake up not knowing where they are. So depending on the way that they nightmare, we train the dog in a specific fashion for that individual. So each of these dogs will be custom trained for one veteran. It's the love of my life. It's work worth doing, and we feel that with our understanding of dogs and dog behavior and how to really find a path through trauma and to come walking on back home, that's what we're here to do, is to show people that there is a path through trauma and there is a way home, and there is. People who are supportive of veterans and want to see this program enhanced can go to thisableveteran.org.
Okay.
That's THISABLE veteran.org, and they can make a donation there. They can also make contact with us if they'd like to come and see the facility,
Great.
see some of the training that's going on, meet some of the veterans. We would welcome them to make an appointment with us, and we would set up a time to do that.